everyone, and welcome to 1923 Main Street.
Home of the Daddy-Daughter Disney Travel Podcast. We are your hosts.
I am Mike Bello-Braddock.
And I'm Amelia Bello-Braddock. And today, we are going to be talking about the how, when, and why of Disney World photography.
Haha, who doesn't love taking photos at Walt Disney World?
Certainly
Everyone.
me.
Well, I love taking photos. And as you know, I spent many years running a photography business in the past, so I don't do that anymore. But
You take like 5,000 photos every visit.
Exactly. And I've been doing that for almost 50 years. So over that time, I've learned a lot of things that I think will be helpful to people and, a lot of ideas about how to take photos. So what did you call it? The how, when, and why?
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it. Let's start with the why. Now,
Okay, Daddy, why is it
some
the
people
best
think,
place?
Disney World, there's so many photos. And it is. There's a reason why it is the single most photographed place on Earth.
Really?
At any given time. It's always the top. And there's a reason why, because people think, Disney World, sort of Mickey Mouse theme parks. But from a photography standpoint, what makes a great photo? Disney World has
Sure, you're going to tell us.
everything. Yeah. Okay, what makes a great photo? Color. Tons of color at Disney World. Vibrance, lots of exciting, vibrant things. Drama. You can find drama at Disney World in photos. And it comes in many shapes and forms. Could be cast members, could be the drama of your own family.
Ooh, I know.
Yeah.
Beauty,
absolutely.
Me.
And there's natural beauty there too, and that makes great photos. Landscape photos. And we're going to talk about some of these.
Photos of your beautiful children.
A lot of there's no shortage of those for anyone. And a lot of what makes great landscape photos is natural beauty, and that's something people don't often associate with Disney World, but there's tons of it there. Pop culture. Popular photos, pop culture. They're widely popular. Well, there's tons and tons of that. History. There's a lot of history at Walt Disney World, and especially if you have a long range of photos going back. I love putting then and now photos. One of the favorite ones I ever did was from Tom Sawyer Island with the fort. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And the fort in the 70s and the fort now. It's funny. They're all little brand new trees in the 70s. Now you can barely see it. I love those side by sides. Landmarks are always great photos. Tons of landmarks, recognizable landmarks.
What about memories? Like joy and memories. Does that make a good photo?
Well, photos become images of memories, I guess you could say.
Yeah, but what, in your opinion, as a photographer, does it matter the output of the photo if a person's having a good time at Disney World? Is it up to the photographer to capture the joy of the moment?
Yes.
A photographer's insight.
If that's the kind of photo you want to do. And there are different types of photography.
True.
Like, a lot of what I focus on now, we're going to get into, are landscapes
Sure
there.
We are.
Sunrises and sunsets. And those are some of my most popular ones on Instagram.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not.
They don't have a beautiful face?
Let me finish. I have two more things of why
Okay.
it's good. Luxurious settings. People love looking at luxurious photos. They aspire to luxury travel. And there are a lot of great places at Disney World. Most of them around the Grand Floridian, but there are other spots where you can get really cool, luxurious photos, like champagne flutes, even in Disney Springs.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Daddy.
And mass appeal, right?
Hey, I get to say that today.
If you're taking great photos, you want mass appeal, generally, if you're a
I
photographer.
know you certainly do.
Unless you're an artsy photographer, then you might not care about that. But Disney World has mass appeal coming out of every angle. So all those things make for great photos, and Disney World has all of those. And that's why it's such a great place to take so many different kinds of photos.
Okay, but I get why they're great photos, but when do you take them? Like you said, sunrises. So when are other good times?
Well, do you want to talk about times or places or?
Both.
Okay, well, let's talk about places. Let's talk about some of our favorite places to take photos. So these are my favorites. And I know that, I can remember trips where my photography starts to, especially when you're little, get you mad.
But what if me mad?
Because I would always stop for photos and to do photos to look for different things.
I'm sorry, used to?
Well, I guess I still do. So here's my favorite 10 best scenic views, and then you comment on what you think. These are not, as I'm going to steal a line from you, in no particular order, but these are my 10 favorite places. A lot of these are common, but a couple of them are ones that I really love. Okay, you see my list there. What did I have as the first one?
Okay, the top of the Contemporary.
I love taking photos from the top of the Contemporary because it has so many different vistas, so many views, so many angles from the top of the Contempt on a, nice day with a blue sky especially, you can see the Grand Floridian, great photos that way. You can see Magic Kingdom, great photos that way. Or if you flip around the other side to Bay Lake, it looks more natural. That's where a lot of those natural
Okay,
looks
so
come
when you're
in.
saying natural, like, what do you like for lighting? Like, natural, like, what if the sun's like, I'm going to shine down too bright?
Well, I'm going to talk about that when we get into tips.
Okay.
Because I like many
Sure.
I like many I like many forms of lighting. So it depends when you're there or
Okay,
how you can
that's
get
true.
there. Number 2, so top of Contemporary is a great spot because it has so many angles and it's a different perspective than you tend to
Yeah.
see a lot. And now when we're talking about different perspectives,
Ooh.
yeah, what's my number 2?
The hot air balloon in Disney Springs.
Yeah, the Aerophile hot air balloon. If you have not gone up there, it is a great spot for getting bird's eye view photography, almost like you're a drone looking down on Disney Springs, but you can see all the parks and everything from up
It's
there.
really cool.
It's great fun just to do, but it's also great for taking photos. And you have a fair bit of time up there, and it's pretty stable too. So
Yeah.
it's really a good top spot. Number 3, this is one I totally love. And
How do you even...
I know you've got to be quick to do this one,
Yeah.
but
Let's explain it first so they know what we're talking
all
about
right.
here.
Number 3 is the top of Expedition Everest. Oh man, there are so many great views left and right. But here's what I mean by the
take
top.
a photo.
Here's what I
when?
mean by the top. You know when you start Everest and then you go on a
Yeah.
few little swirls and then you climb up that big hill and you think you're going to drop off if it's your first time on it. Spoiler alert if you haven't ridden it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You go through the little sort of cave area.
Oh, yeah.
When you come out of that cave, you have your camera ready.
Yeah.
Whether you look to the right or to the left.
Or get someone in your car to look the other way.
Yeah, there
Which
are
is what
some
you do.
incredible views. To the right is like overlooking Animal Kingdom, and to the left is more Disney World, just sort of a really cool scenic from high up. You've got a few seconds if you're ready to get some great shots. And I remember somebody like Joe Rhodey took a shot, the Imagineer, from up there, and somebody goes, "Where's that shot from?" And he said, "From the top of Everest." So it's now, I don't know if he was riding in the car, but
Yeah, I don't think
a lot of
so.
people take some really, really great photos up there, and there's some of my personal favorites. So I love that. Now, sticking with Animal Kingdom, another spot in there,
Okay.
Kilimanjaro Safari.
You want to explain this one? I think.
So I think I may use this as my blog post photo on 1923mainstreet.com because I think my all-time favorite Walt Disney World photo is a Kilimanjaro Safari photo.
Really?
We have it up. I framed it. It's
Does it
one
have
of the
me in it?
animals. The lighting's incredible. It looks like a painting. I don't know if you know that one I mean. It's like sort
Oh,
of
yeah.
antelope. I'm going to use this.
Not me.
Sorry. There's some good ones of you.
So what I'm hearing is not the favorite.
Well, one of my favorites. Let me backtrack. And before we get into more trouble. So, yes, Kilimanjaro Safari. And you can trick people with that. People think you've gone away to African safari if you take the photos right. And it's all about composition in all of these places.
Yeah.
Composition being get anything out of there that looks Disney. And this is what one of these does. And
Or you could just say Adventures by Disney Africa
or
style.
Adventures by Disney Africa. Now, moving into number 5 on my favorite scenic views. So I love, personally, water view photos. I love staying in hotels with water views. That's one of the reasons. It's one of the reasons I don't love Animal Kingdom, among others that we've talked about in the past.
Others.
But I really like water, and water view photos are amazing. So Seven Seas
Never
Lagoon.
theme park view.
So many views. Well, theme park view can overlook the water, like Seven
Has to
Seas
overlook
Lagoon.
the water. It's like the Disney of your trips.
I don't know what that means.
I mean, so you know how you always have to go on a Disney trip?
Yes.
It's like you always have to overlook the water.
Yes, I do prefer water views. And photos with water, I think, are amazing. In fact, I'll tell you another tip. Not really a tip, but something I've noticed. Of all my photos with blue in them get more views on Instagram in particular.
Blue's a good color.
Yeah, and a lot of the water views tend to have that because I like to get sky contrast in there. So Seven Seas
looks good
Lagoon,
on
all around it,
everyone.
whether it's the Grand Floridian, the bungalows, just the islands where they used to have the wave maker, the islands on Seven Seas Lagoon. It's a great spot for photos. And of course, the Magic Kingdom is on Seven Seas Lagoon. And then right next door, my number 6 favorite spot.
Bay Lake, isn't that the same as Contemporary?
Yeah, well, the other side of where the Contemporary dock is. But
Okay.
not just. So the Contemporary top of it, yeah, you get good views. But Bay Lake, you can also have from the Wilderness Lodge dock. I have some really cool sunsets overlooking
Okay.
Shipwreck Island from Fort Wilderness, all
Yeah, I
around
see
what
what you
was
mean.
Discovery Island and River Country, which is now going to be Reflections.
Reflections.
So Bay Lake, also some great natural beauty pictures. And you get some really cool stuff because in the morning on Bay Lake, that's where the ferries, the ferries that go from the TTC, from the
Yeah.
Transportation Ticket Center to the Magic Kingdom. Well, they sort of dock at night in around past the Contemporary through Bay Lake. So
Cool.
if you're in the Contemp, especially, you'll see those ships or those ferries coming out in the morning. It's a pretty neat photo, especially if you get the glass water. I love that. Another one. Now, I've got to admit, I have never gotten a photo from here, but I think it would be such a
Yeah,
great spot.
I'm gonna ask, how do you bring a camera?
Well, a lot of people do. You got to have a waterproof camera for this one and a shockproof one. What is it?
Summit Plummet.
The top of Summit Plummet at Blizzard Beach is a really great view. And from that area is my only beef with Disney Imagineers. So Imagineering, this, and you see it from here. It's a photo I'd almost want to capture because they do such an, like one of the, what's the magic of Disney?
It looks so real.
It looks so real and there's no sort of seams like when I
Yeah.
go to Universal, that's you see the huge difference. They don't care for the sight lines. You go through a ride, you can see sort of lights off to the side, whereas Disney goes above and beyond, out of their way always to pretend you're on stage and to keep the magic
That
alive.
is that's one of my favorite things about Disney and Imagineering as well. It's so great that it does make it magical. It's as if you're actually on a shipwreck per se.
Now, exactly. So, what do you see at the top of Summit Plummet? I don't understand this one for the life of me. You look back over at Expedition Everest and you see the back of it, but it's not covered with mountain. It's a bunch of 4x4 or whatever
No.
pieces of wood framing. And I'm going, why did they not, like they did half the mountain?
No.
Yes. And from the top of Summit Plummet, you see it and it ruins the magic. So this is something someday. Come on, guys, fix that mountain.
Wow.
So you can capture that image from the top of Summit Plummet. Number 8.
Cool.
Well, this is probably the most photographed place, so
Yeah.
it's got to be on the list. It is what?
Cinderella Castle.
Cinderella Castle. Classic photo.
Classic.
Classic. Thousands or millions and billions of photos, whatever the number is.
And are you talking about inside or outside? Because both are very photographed areas.
Good point. And here's my thing with Cinderella Castle or any of these popular ones. I always try to look get a photographer's eye. What's a different angle? Can you actually come up with one that almost nobody's done before? I don't know, but I always try. You can
I
get
have
some
another
really
place.
Yeah.
You just reminded me of another one that's
That-
not even on the list.
Okay, so let me finish my list. So Cinderella Castle, obviously a classic must
Classic
do.
must do.
You're going to do your standard standing out front if it's your first vacation, but
Yeah,
but
even you've gone 100 times, you still do it.
exactly.
We all do it.
You always, and there's always something different in a photo that
Yeah.
a lot of times you see when you get
It's
back.
true.
You go, oh, look at that. I didn't even notice that when I was taking
Yeah.
it. And I'm going to get to that in tips.
But we
But
got one during a kiss goodnight too. It's like, oh, that's so cool.
yeah, exactly. There's even that.
Yeah.
So really look for different perspectives. Try to take a photographer's eye if you're not rushing somewhere.
Yeah.
That's the trick with all these. Okay, number 9, the Epcot version, Spaceship Earth.
Oh, that's another great photograph. You have to admit it is kind of beautiful.
It is, and you can really capture it with some neat lighting. I like Spaceship Earth in photos, so it's a really good scenic
like
view.
Spaceship Earth and photos. You decided to take me because I asked you to, and then you're like, "Hey, this is a good spot for photos."
And you can do
I
it.
like this.
There's long shots of it, even from the far side of the water, by the American Adventure Pavilion.
People see it, they think Epcot.
Yeah, exactly. And number 10, my final top 10 of my personal top 10, the boardwalk area.
Ooh,
The Disney boardwalk
it is
area.
beautiful.
It's great for photos because it has almost that.
Another magic thing. You feel like you're on an actual pier, not in Disney.
Exactly. And that's why. And at night, you can really make it like that Atlantic City sort of
Yeah.
New Jersey shoreline that they were going for, I think, when they built it. And day or night, the boardwalk, it's got water. You get a blue sky in there. There's lots of color. There's entertainers. So I really like the boardwalk. It's a great. So those are my top 10 personal favorite scenic views.
Now, I have one, and I wasn't sure if we were going to mention this, but it's not on the list. And it is also when you said a different angle, I was thinking the Haunted Mansion.
Oh, yes.
Another angle of the Haunted Mansion.
That's right. And that is one of my favorites. And some people say, where do you get that? So most people take the Haunted Mansion from, sort of where you see it when you enter.
And if you want people to know what you're taking, that's probably the best spot.
But as you go through the line, now here's the thing. If you're in the Fast Pass line,
you probably won't see it.
You won't be able to do it.
Yeah.
Think the line's on the left. Whichever line is on the right. Actually, sorry. No, it's only from the Fast Pass line on the right.
Oh, yeah.
It's the opposite. Yeah. Because as you go about halfway down that line, before you turn right to go into the Haunted Mansion boarding area, you can actually go between the black bars of the wrought iron fence and actually get a shot of the front door, sort of.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool angle. If you at night or whenever, really just think of composition and lighting and all that stuff we're going to get into. But it's a great angle that most people don't do.
Yeah, most people, every time you show them that photo, they're like, wow.
Yeah, they really love the angle.
Yeah.
So yeah, good call. And that's the thing. I mean, these are my top 10, but man, there's tons of great golf courses are another great. I mean, we could go on and on, but these are just them.
We don't have the time for that.
Yeah, these are just my top 10. And we like to keep our shows to approximately 30 minutes or less. So
yeah,
we're not going to go through every single area and do favorite photo spots. But
ooh, magical moment alert, magical moment.
All right, it's time for a magical moment. And this one, I didn't even tell you what it was.
Yeah, you're so
I've got
secretive.
one because it relates to photography.
Okay.
You were a little kid. It takes place at Hollywood Studios.
Oh, yeah.
What am I talking about?
This is really magical.
Disney Channel rocks.
Oh, good. I was like, that's the right one.
I'm talking about Disney Channel. So a few years ago, it's maybe been gone for 5 or 6, but there was a show where a bunch of performers and dancers would come up and out in front of where the hat used to be and do a Disney Channel rock sort of medley of all the shows at that time. Cheetah Girls and Shake It Up. They were all big then.
Oh, wow. Okay, you're just giving me so much deja vu. It's like memories are just like flooding back to me.
I think you were 4 years old.
Yeah.
And you would come and dance there. And every day you wanted to go to Hollywood Studios.
Top.
Yeah. And you would just bust a move when there's a portion where all the dancers come down and they dance with all the kids or adults.
Yeah.
And you would go there every day. And a couple of them really started to like you, the cast members. So they would see you there. And then one day, one of the managers of the show said, "Follow us. The cast wants to meet Amelia," or what's your daughter's name? Amelia. The cast wants to meet her backstage and take a photo. So we're going, what? So as the show went back down Hollywood Boulevard and, towards where it goes in, near the front of the entrance where it goes backstage.
Yeah, and then you follow them, and there's this really cool backstage area, and I don't even know if you can get there on a tour.
Oh, no, you can't because it's just backstage. It's not a place they take, but they took us all back there. You got to meet them all.
Yeah.
And then they said, we're going to do a great cast photo, and it's a really good photo where you struck a pose. And
this should be one of your favorites, Daddy.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that was a real magical
favorites.
moment. You loved it because the whole cast was there, and and they did it all as a photo opportunity.
It was like a pose. I had my arm up.
And then after that, you were spoiled. And I think we were just talking about this the other day. That's what gave me the magical moment idea.
Oh, yeah.
You go, no, I want to go back. This was the next trip. So a few months later, that was March and maybe it was July. And we were on our next vacation there. And you want to go back. So we had to change the whole schedule because I said, all right, I'm going to take you back there because it was so much fun. We get there. And what happened?
I just sat there.
Why?
It wasn't my cast.
It was a different crew.
It was still a good show.
You wouldn't even dance, though. You were so mad going, that's not my crew. It wasn't the same cast members who you saw a few months earlier. Although we did see them again after that. So it just happened on that day. The crew had changed. It wasn't my crew.
Yeah, I was really surprised you brought me back. That is not a you move with your
Every now and then I like to do my own little magic for you.
Yeah.
Come on.
Magical moment of its own.
I build my whole itineraries around you. Not true.
Yeah.
She's not buying that.
Gonna be really.
All right. So now we've talked about why it's good. some of our favorite spots. Here's my personal 7 tips for how to take awesome photos at Walt Disney World and almost anywhere, but a lot of these are Disney World specific.
And I'm starting to see why you wanted to wait for my question. So what's the first one, Daddy?
The first one, some people aren't going to like this, but it is my number one favorite thing, especially in the last few years. Get up early.
Yeah, so this is a really great tip because the sunrises are beautiful there.
The sun, depending where you are. So,
okay, yes.
Yeah, sunrises are amazing.
Many great photos.
Tons, especially on 7. Like when you're in the Grand Floridian on upper floor, especially if you're in the villas.
And even I've got good photos, and I'm not like a professional photographer by any means.
Or the Contemporary has some great ones. So get up early, but not only that, not only for the sunrises. I love early morning at Walt Disney World. I say it all the time. It's so quiet and still. There is nobody there. Almost nobody out. Sometimes you see a few runners at the resort.
Yeah,
you can get the most amazing photos because nobody's in them.
Yeah, and people are like, when is that? The beach is so uncrowded, or there's nobody on the walkways. Like, what's happening?
It looks like it's closed. And it's just, they're cool because it's different from most of the photos you ever see, which always have people in them, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But so get up early in the quiet, or videos. I mean, a lot of these apply. If you're a videographer, YouTube channel, same things apply. If you're taking sort of scenics, get up early. It's totally worth it. And early, I'm talking 6:30, 6. But and when you can see the sunrise, it's cool. I mean, if you care about your photos, that's how you're going to get the really magic shots. All right. Number 2, and this is sort of related. And you talked about this earlier.
What I was saying.
Yeah, so I wanted to save it. Consider the lighting. So if you're not a big photographer, you may not think of the magic hours as photographers talk about it. Basically, it means that there's good lighting and bad lighting generally to get a really nicely composed photo, and you can only do so much in Photoshop. So the best times are morning, soft light from the sunrise, evening, or sort of sunset time. It's also soft light, magical hours. Overcast days are good too because they don't create shadows. You don't have the blue sky. But the worst time generally is when you're in the parks, most likely. Midday, the sun's high, it's coming straight down on you, and you really get harsh shadows, right?
Yeah,
It's hard to take a good photo that time of day. You can try to correct it, but it's just... Magic lighting is magic lighting. It's like using a studio umbrella.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to jump to number 7 because these aren't in an order, Daddy.
Okay.
I get to say my line.
Yeah.
These are in no particular order. It's not like get up early is the most important.
Number 7 is a pet peeve of mine, so you go at it.
Yeah. Oh, I do that all the time, though. You always get mad at me. But if you do have not so great lighting, you can fix it with a filter, but do not overdo the filters.
Oh, this is when I try not to comment about stuff.
Really? Because you comment to me all
Well, I mean, out in the Twitterverse, but there's a lot of, there's a lot of cool filters, and everybody uses filters. I like to not use filters as much as just increasing some of the sort of contrast and maybe color saturation. But sometimes I see some that people post, and it looks, and I don't think they're trying to make it look absurd, but they put like 20 filters on it, and it looks just ridiculous. Like, and so please, filters are great, obviously, and you have some real fun. Used to be airbrushing many years ago is what we used to do, but don't overdo it with filters, right?
Yeah,
just show some restraint. You don't have to use all of them all the time on every photo, because if it looks too fake, it's off-putting. So don't overdo it. Use filters elegantly, like they're really meant to be.
As you consistently remind me.
Number 3 is one I thought you'd like.
Yeah.
Use a mini tripod. It's a great thing to have there for a couple of reasons.
And even if you're using your phone, there are attachments. So don't think I have to have a camera, because you don't.
Yeah, good point. You can get little phone attachments. We just got a couple more, but one of those good mini tripods are the kind with the bendy legs.
Yes.
Like the legs look like a bunch of little balls strung together, because you can wrap those around like iron posts and things. And I don't know if I'd do it on a coaster. It might fall off. But they're really good for taking not only sort of family shots or group shots on a timer, but also as you get into later hours and you want those nighttime or fireworks photos, it's got to be still.
Yeah.
You can only hold your camera so still. So one of those mini tripods, if you're serious about taking photos there, is really great. And what did I say for the next one?
Consider the crowds and people. That is a big one. If there are going to be people all the time in the background of your photos, but try and keep it to a minimum, because if there's too many people, you might lose yourself.
Or, and this happens to everyone, including me, because I don't always remember all these, but I really try. And I've actually helped people. I don't know if you're listening, but there've been people on Twitter and they've sent photos. Can someone please? I didn't notice this guy bending over and his pants down, a little too low like a plumber when I took the photo because they weren't paying attention. Can someone please Photoshop this out? So I've actually done that a couple of times to help people.
Yeah, there's this app where you can literally remove people. So that's a big help.
Yeah. So really, when you're taking it, let's say you're taking the family and right inside the gate of the Magic Kingdom, just take a second for your eye to quickly scan who's in this photo and what are they doing. Because sometimes you can wait 3 seconds and that gigantic baby carriage or that whole family walking will be out of your shot. So you'll get the cleaner shot that you want. You won't have to fix it later. So remember, sometimes you want a crowd shot. Sometimes I take crowd shots on purpose, but just remember, people. And don't be shy about asking cast members to help. Be
polite, but not shy.
Be polite. They love being in photos, and we've done a lot of cool ones with cast members or ask them to take photos for you. They love it. So remember the cast members are there. And I'm not just a PhotoPass photographers. I'm talking just cast members. They'll do whatever they can if they can. And then the last tip I have is don't rush. And this sort of goes back to the people one.
I mean, unless you have a fast pass, so you have a dinner or something.
I know it's hard, but if you really want to get a shot.
If you're not in a rush, there's no need.
And just take that, it relates to the people sort of discussion, or it could be even on the lake. Like sometimes I want to get a shot and I got to wait for the boat to come in or out of the scene. Just wait, just take a second, sort of mentally breathe and look around.
Yeah, and it can even help you. Like instead of just quick, okay, I mean, if you're on the Everest, this does not apply here. Don't wait. The car's going to pass and you'll miss your shot. But other than that, take a second. Most of the time, it won't hurt your photo.
Yeah, and most of the time, it'll help. Unless you bring a good point. Sometimes you have to be fast, but that's different if something's happening.
Yeah, you'll know when it's...
The most popular photo I ever had at Disney World was an accident. Do you remember? Not an accident, but we were at Disney Springs. This was only a few years ago, and Britney Spears walked by.
Oh, yes.
And I said to Amelia, hey, there's Britney Spears. And you said, who's that? Anyway, I took this photo... And
oh my gosh,
and I tweeted it out. This is to this day my most popular tweet ever. It had over 20,000 impressions instantly. My phone was blowing up and
it's true.
What? He
kept dinging and I was like,
I didn't know she's still active sort of on the club sort of music scene, has a whole following. I didn't know that, but I got that shot and it went viral. So that was sort of cool. And people ask me what kind of camera. I used to, as I said,
use a phone.
Now I use my phone or my Canon G7.
Yeah, phone 8.
I also bring my camera, but I no longer lug, even though I used to run photography, I don't want to lug SLRs and giant lenses around anymore. And it's not
always the camera either.
No, that's the thing.
I have a better camera than you get.
On your phone.
On my phone, yet your pictures are, well, I don't want to say better, but...
Well, I take the time, but also I use my Canon a lot. The little compact because I can fit it in my pocket, but you can now get...
I have a Canon, I don't know how to use it.
Well, that's the thing. You can get great. You can even go into manual on a lot of these now. So you no longer need to lug gigantic digital SLRs around. There's great cameras. It's fine if you really do need it. They do things the other ones don't, but you can get great photos without them practicing all these tips.
And technology is not going to get worse.
So that was a whirlwind tour of talking photography. I love taking photos at Walt Disney World and Disneyland and every Disney resort.
And hey, these tips can apply or other places as well.
Yeah, like our own backyard.
And just don't even get started on that, Daddy.
So listen, be sure. I'd love to hear your photography tips or your famous places. So send Amelia and I notes with all your photography tips, and we'll try to add those in on the website. As bonus material, because it always helping people, especially first timers, to take great photos at Walt Disney World is excellent. So we thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a great and magical day. You can find us across social media at 1923 Main Street in pretty much everywhere with that handle, 1923 Main Street, and send us an email with any comments or questions or show episode ideas. We'd love to hear that. So thank you for listening, everyone. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye bye.